How's it going? How's it going? Welcome aboard. It is I, TJ. You are live and you are seeing M5 Successful Friends, where we hang out with successful friends of M5. And today, like any other day, we bring you a successful friend. And actually today is one of those cool days that I'm like, okay, how do I start the questions? But let me not waste the time and jump on into who's our guest. You already know, for some of you who do know. But if you don't know, I've always had a coach. I started off in property from back in the days, and I didn't know much. And today, we are interviewing none other than my coach. And this is Andrew Walker. Andrew Walker, how's it going? Welcome aboard.
Hey, TJ, I'm very well. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
Andrew Walker, the name Andrew Walker sounds like it is coming from the movies, like a Chuck Norris name.
Johnny Walker.
Yeah. Andrew, who is Andrew Walker?
Yeah, geez, so here's Andrew Walker. I'm just a guy from Edenvale in Johannesburg, from the Vale. And I guess the question is, TJ, do you want to know my story, the background, or because, you know, who is Andrew Walker? I mean, I always just say I am just a guy from Edenvale, you know, a guy with vision, a guy with a dream, and I'm just following that.
What is the dream, Andrew?
So the dream, well, there's quite a few, right?
Yeah.
There's quite a few dreams and goals and ideas, and you know, for me, it's always been about doing what I want to do when I want to do that, and I am living that now. I'm doing what I love. You know, when I want to take time off, I will. And I think one of my biggest goals has been to build 13 years ago, TJ, when I was going through coaching, I drew a picture, and I drew a tree with these branches, and underneath the ground, I wrote the things like, it was 2005, and I wrote like, or 2007, like foundation, get education. And as this tree was, as I was building or drawing the tree, right at the top of the tree, like I remember saying 2015, I think it was, I want to build an entrepreneurial school. Because I didn't know how or what, but I said, my vision was, I want to build the school.
Nice.
And you know, it's crazy because I set that vision then, and I've got that now. That's the Property Academy, and it's not an entrepreneurial school; it's a property entrepreneurial school. So I'm like, that was my big vision, because I love educating, I love teaching. I always have in everything I've done, whether it was coaching the rugby girls or coaching kung fu. It may not look like it now, but I was a kung fu instructor. I used to teach maths. I used to go teach young people how to do maths.
Yeah.
And then I go into property. And same as sound engineering and same as property. Everything I've ever enjoyed or got into and excelled at, I'd go back and teach. And so, you know, what is the ultimate vision and goal? You know what, TJ? I almost feel like I'm living it. I'm actually living my dream, because I do what I want. I've got companies in two different continents. I spend time with the people I want to spend time with. And it's a good question, because I'm thinking now, like, what is that vision, you know? Because I'm living it. It's kind of weird, eh?
Good, good. No, I think it's great. It's being in, so it's being in the zone. You know, we always see athletes, and then they go out, they do amazing things, and when they're doing it in that particular moment, they are in the zone. You know, because they're in their winning stride. Not to mention that they're not getting injured whilst they're going along the way, or they're not getting tired, but they are winning in that space. So right now, yeah, you are in the zone, man. High five to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. And you know, when you go to bed at night and you're excited to wake up in the morning, because you can't wait to get behind your laptop because you're so excited to do what you love, you know, that's when you know if you're actually living your passion.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes solid sense. And Andrew, I just want to bring it back a little bit. So you say that we are Johannesburg based, myself and you are more in the East. We've journeyed together for a long time. Had it not been for you being my coach, I don't think my journey would be where it is today. And obviously, I'm not your only student. You've got a wider range of students. But what I've also noticed about you, Andrew, is that you are not just in the business alone. You're still a man. You're still a father. You got 2 kids. You're still a husband. And you still go to work like most of us. So that doesn't take away any of the challenges that we have. So we're in the COVID space right now. You're also being affected with COVID. And all of these pressures that comes through in an everyday life, you are not separate from that. And yet you are in the zone of doing what you love best. The question that I then want to throw back to you is, when did this start? And how did you actually start to say, well, this is the journey, that's the vision, and I'm going to start chasing it? And because I want us to talk about from the starting point, how did you actually start?
Yeah, no, sure. So there's 3 key dates here. There's 2001, 2005, and 2013. 3 key dates in my journey. Right. So 2001 going into 2002, I was 21 years old, and at that stage, I'd met my wife now, Simone. I think I knew her for about a year, and we went to Durban on holiday. And growing up as a kid in Edenvale in Johannesburg, I was a sound engineer. I started DJing and putting parties together, and I got my diploma in sound engineering. But I used to, growing up, and this sounds crazy, but I used to play lots of Monopoly, right? And I used to love it, and I always used to win. And Monopoly is all about houses, right? Buy the small, I can't remember, it's the small green ones first or something, and then you go buy the hotels. I haven't played in ages. And when I was in Durban, that's when I came across a private seller in a bar. I saw this postcard, and I bought, a long story short, I went to go view it, the south coast of Durban, and I bought this property. Getting bonds back then was very, very easy back in 2001. And I bought this property as a holiday rental that I could rent out and use for myself and my friends and guests. And at that stage, property price was going up. I continued to practice as a sound engineer. I got into building studios, literally from scratch. I would do the design, I'd get the cables, I'd buy the computers, and put this whole thing together. I then went to NAMISA, which is the government training education company. They headhunted me, and I started teaching their students how to do what I was doing, right? Right. And I did that for a few years, and I was working hard, man. I was working 7 days a week, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. It did get to a point that where I started thinking, is this what life is all about? And it was only then when the next milestone was 2005. My wife, now my girlfriend then, Simone, had just got her degree as a speech therapist, and said, look, Andrew, I'm going to the UK with or without you. And I was like, gee, thanks, love. True love, eh? And anyway, I packed up the business, which was very hard to do. And we were going for 12 months. You know how most South Africans go overseas? It's a 12-month journey, but it sucked us in for 8 years. But whilst in the UK, in the tube, there was this Robert Kiyosaki banner. In the tube sat there, and it says free investment seminar, property investment seminar. And as this was happening, we got a call about our property in South Africa. And the body corporate said, hey, someone wants to buy a flat. Are you interested in selling? And I was like, yeah, well, geez, how much? And she said 520,000. I only paid 160 for it. Okay. So when I got, it's kind of like this penny drop going, oh my gosh, I've just made more money than in one property transaction than I have working for a full year. And at the stage was when I saw the Robert Kiyosaki thing in the tube, and I started reading Robert Kiyosaki's books, and I thought, like, there's something, the universe or God or whatever it is he's trying to tell me something, that I need to go to this investment course. And it was at the Lloyd's cricket ground in London. So I went there, and there were South Africans at the front talking about how they've just come over from South Africa and they're buying properties and da-da-da-da. And I thought, well, they can do it, I can do it, right? It was £1,000 that we put onto Simone's credit card, because we went to the UK and we sold Simone's car, and we literally went over with £500, which we used for rent and deposits. So we started with nothing. So everything was basically on debt. So we paid for this course, and then I was there for 3 days with about 200 investors from all over the UK, Ireland, Wales, the UK. And I was so naive and green. I knew nothing about nothing. London's a whole different world. I've only been there for a few months, and I had the opportunity to get a mentor. They were selling mentorship packages.
Yeah.
And I said, and I think it was like £13,000. And I never had £13,000. But I knew.
Andrew, were you at that moment? Simone is the one who's working, right? And you're not working.
No, I was working, but as a sound engineer at the bottom of the barrel, basically. I wasn't earning much money.
Yeah.
Whereas Simone was working for the NHS, so she was earning big time. Yeah, that's why I was with her.
Good.
And she had the credit. So as we went over, like they gave her bank accounts, they threw money at her because she was working for the NHS.
Nice.
And I remember saying to her that night, because I got cold feet, and I was like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do this because it's a lot of money, right? £13,000. We in debt. We've come to this country to travel and have fun, and now we're going to £13,000 debt. And I basically pulled out. However, Simone said, but what if this does work? What if we pay the money, and what if it does work? Because we don't want to be stuck in the rat race forever. So it was Simone that really said, look, what if this does work? And what if we can change our lives? And we went home that night, and we got pen and paper, and we came up with different scenarios. And look, TJ, like we just said, look, we're 25, let's take the risk. And that's exactly what we did. We took the risk. And that was a big milestone for us, because now I was connected to a training company in the UK, in London. And we had bought various 3-day advanced workshops like buy-to-lets, HMOs, creative finance. We had our own mentor that spent a few days with us in a town called Grimsby in the UK. They connected us to builders, to other students. And very quickly, within 12 to 24 months, I went from being a full-time sound engineer. And it was difficult because I couldn't just leave the sound engineering. I remember I was working full-time, and I then went part-time. And from part-time, I became a consultant. So 5 days a week to, say, 4 days a week, down to like 1 or 2 days a week. And I did that over, I can't remember now. I think it was about 18 months. So I gradually stepped up, because I thought to myself, if I'm going to get into property, I want to be the first one to the property. I want to know everything about property. Because working as a sound engineer, I had very limited time. And that was a big milestone for me then. And that's when I started building a property letting business, because I thought, hey, I found one area, I've got one strategy. And if I'm going to focus on that, and I'm going to build a property portfolio, why don't I at the same time build a letting agency that can manage my portfolio as well as other portfolios? So I started building two businesses, my own portfolio and the letting business. And in the letting business, that's where I do what's called research days. So, we have people all over the country coming up to Grimsby, paying me a few £100s, and I'd spend the day with them, showing the good areas, the bad areas, property viewings. And if they liked me and the area, I would then go source them properties and charge them a fee. So they'll tell me their budget, what kind of property are they after. And then I'll project manage it, and I'll let it. So basically, and I still do that to this day in the UK, where we offer full armchair service. And that's where a lot of my experience came from, because for 8 full years whilst I lived in the UK, quote 7 out of the 8, that's what I did. So as I was building other people's portfolios and finding them and managing them, we'd use my attorney, my bond originators, my team. I would then start cherry picking some of the properties for myself. And I started doing joint ventures, angel finance. So a lot of my experience came through that part of the journey. And then that then took us to 2013.
I want to, before you jump onto your next milestone, Andrew, I think I want to zoom in to the conversation around Simone. And it's one thing that I actually applaud and respect and look up to you in terms of how you and Simone work very closely together.
Yeah.
And for me and Jenna, for a long time, we couldn't work together, but we could work for each other, right?
Yeah.
So our purpose was kind of like the same on where we want to go, but the how to, myself and Jenna would always clash. But from an outsider, you and Simone work very well, right?
Yeah.
For anyone that that doesn't know, for some people, they would say, behind every man, there's a successful man, there's a woman there. For you, it's Simone. It's pretty
big
evident.
time,
She is your supporting pillar in that. But how did that come to be? Because I mean, there you are. She's working full time in NHS, and there you are now. You are doing the property thing. But at some point, you guys then decided to come to South Africa. And when I pick up the journey of you being in South Africa now, I've just always known you and Simone working hand in hand together. Like this, nothing that I would do with you without Simone having a playing role in it. It could be minute, but that minute could be actually a defining moment on how it's going to be. Being here and things like that. But explain to us from a relationship perspective of being a husband and wife working in the business for your family together. How does that have its benefits, or also does it not have benefits? I don't know.
Look, it's been tough and good in the beginning. So it must have been 2007 or 2008, somewhere around there, where Simone decided to leave the NHS and come work with myself in the letting business.
Sure.
So, because when she was transferred to Hull, which is about 40 minutes north of Grimsby, she was offered a job somewhere else in the UK and would have to do, she'll be away for the week, come back weekends. And we both decided, look, why don't you just leave the NHS, leave that industry, and get into property full-time with myself? And look, it definitely had its challenges, eh? I mean, I think I irritate Simone every single day of my life, and she shouts at me every single day. I just know how to handle her now, right? And she's actually listening to this, love. And no, look, there's been challenging moments, and we also clash when we do work together. I would say like now we've pretty much got it down to a T. These are my roles, those are Simone's roles, and we don't clash as much as we used to. But don't get me wrong, we used to clash a lot, especially when we used to work in the same office with other people. Because now there's a husband and a wife, and there's the manager, and then there's the whatever you want to call it, the other manager or the secretary, whatever name you want to give it. And in the eyes of the staff members, it's like, well, that's husband and wife, but they're working together. And that's where it was difficult, when you're surrounded by our staff members in the UK. But it's a lot different now. We know how to work with each other. I know what rubs up the wrong way. So I know when to keep quiet. But like COVID, for example, COVID hasn't really affected us at all with that, because even before COVID happened, myself and Simone used to work from home anyway. Home is our office, which is great. We've got our own office at the back of the house, and why do we need to rent office spaces? Our team is all around the country. And with technology, it's possible. So Simone's got her role in the business. I've got my role in the business, completely different. We understand each other. Simone really helps me run my diary and planning and all of that. And we get along just fine now, hey?
So I think it's about, I suppose any couple, if they're determined on what the goal is and they put proper roles and responsibility around it, it can work. It's working for you. It's slowly getting there with me and my wife. But I just also want to come back, Andrew, from a point of now you're starting off right in Grimsby. And did you have any stumbling blocks by just starting off, because I mean, you didn't have any money. You were coming from a weaker currency, and there you are now in the UK. But yes, you and Simone are working, but you didn't have lots of money around. What were those stumbling blocks, and how did you overcome them back then?
No, big time. I mean, obviously, we're starting with no capital. That is a challenge. And that's when someone actually said to you, why don't you start sourcing properties to start generating capital? And that's exactly what I did. I started sourcing properties for investors. So I was trading my time for money in the sound engineering business, right? Working, getting paid. So I thought, let me trade my time for money and property. Let me go work for investors where I can start earning money. But this way, I'm in the property game. And to actually get started, though, was very difficult. Lots of sacrifices, no weekends. I had to put that time and effort in. And I still remember the first 2 properties I bought on the mentorship with my mentor actually fell through for reasons of the valuation. we couldn't get the right valuation that we were looking for.
Right.
And, you know, the biggest stumbling block was how am I going to finance this thing, you know? And the first deal I did get that actually got accepted by a few months after the mentorship, I thought, how am I going to finance this thing? Like, I just called the mentor and said, like, what do I do? You know, I remember I was shaking because now the seller said yes. I put my offer in. I've got a deal on the table. I've never, you know, yes, I bought that property in Durban, but that's different. That's South Africa. This was in England.
Yeah.
And, geez, we had to think out the box. So at that stage, I got a credit card. And I could use the credit card to pay for things like the legal fees and the bond attorney fees, because there you actually pay the bond attorney. And in those days, TJ, the lenders would lend me based on the future value, okay? So they give me 75% of the future value. So I think the purchase price was like 52,000, and they would lend me 48. So short of $4,000, which we never had, because now we've taken a loan out in Simone's name for the training. So I got an increase on my credit card, and I actually use my credit card as the difference. That's how I managed to pay for the purchase price. So that's how I overcome that stumbling block. But now I've got a renovation to do. That renovation was, from memory, it was about 14 or 15,000 pounds. At that stage, the council were giving £10,000 grants to investors like myself to bring empty properties into use. And I then said to the builder, would you mind, because you used to working with the council, aren't you, Mr. Builder? Yes. So would you mind working with the council? The council released money up front. So they would then release money up front to the builder for him to get started, and release the 75% at the end. So long story short, between the builder and the council, I got them to finance my refurb.
Yeah.
I then went back to Leeds Building Society and said, hey, I've got a house that's been renovated. It's in my name. The tenant's in there. Can you please give me a mortgage based on the new market value? Back then, I'm sure it was like £75,000, of which I was only expecting like 68 to 70, and I got £75,000. So they gave me a loan to a value of £75,000, and I paid everyone back: my credit card, the builder, not the attorney, the credit card, paid the lender back. Right. And I ended up with a property with literally none of my own personal money in that deal. And I've still got that property to this day. So my biggest stumbling block was definitely not knowing how to do creative finance. How do you bring it all together? And how do you refinance this asset with having none of your money? So my very first property, luckily, was a good experience. And because I've been through that, then my confidence levels went up. Then I knew, okay, there's something here. How many times can I do this? As many times as I want. And so because I understood it, I then started doing that with multi-lets, HMOs, for myself, business partners, for people from London. And that's how I started doing hundreds of property deals, because finance then was also easy to get, and it wasn't an issue, because in the UK, the restrictions aren't the same as here.
Yeah. So Andrew, there you are, right? So you're now, so your journey is fascinating here now, right? So you're a foreigner in the UK, and you are smacking it.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
But potentially utilizing some of the locals. I mean, it was a wide variety of people that you're working with here. But then you decide to come back to a weaker currency. I would say there's something wrong in your head. If I was to I would say you're going back on your own. Why?
Yeah, lots of people do ask me that. So, like I said, I spent 8 years there. We bought our residential house. My kids were born in England. Yeah. And I think when we're getting to like year 3, year 4, year 5, it was so fun, exciting. We're traveling. We went to Europe. You know, we're literally, for my Christmas party, we just jumped on a plane to Amsterdam. Yeah. And back the same day. Like going to Amsterdam just for the day, coming back. Sure. It was like 20 pounds for a return flight, you know? Yeah. That flexibility. But I guess, you know, once we had the kids, and my parents are here in South Africa, so Simone's, and all our friends were here, because living in London was cool, because our friends were still there, but we moved up north. They came back to SA and Dubai and Australia. And I guess I got to a point where we had Logan and Skylar. We had no support, no nannies, no mommy or dad or auntie or uncle or anyone took off the kids. They were ours.
Wow.
And it was pretty cool, but it was tough. So I'd be out and Simone would be inside with the kids. And I remember, I think it was the 6th year, that winter, and then the 7th year. And that winter where I was like, you know what? This isn't for me lifestyle-wise. Like, forget about money, forget about business. I was just like, my heart, and Simone was the same. And especially then coming back on holiday in summer and going to Cape Town and getting married in 2010, going like, why am I not living in South Africa? Because I love South Africa. South Africa's got everything. Right? It's got the oceans, it's got the safaris, it's got the bush, it's got everything that one would need and want. And we just made the decision. The decision wasn't around money. It was around lifestyle. It was around doing what you want to do when you want to do it. Jump in a car and go to the bush for the weekend. Jump in the car, we go to Ellis Park and we're going to watch the rugby on Saturday. I never had those privileges over there. And I guess my kids were at that age where I didn't want granny and grandpa to be a stranger to them. So that was the main driving force. We made the decision within a year. We decided to pack up and go. Fortunately, at that time, I wanted to franchise my letting business. So I got a business consultant in. Don't know how much money I spent on with this consultant, but she's actually a good friend of mine now. And she really helped me systemize our business over there. So we wrote a full operational manual because the intention was we're going to pick this up. And actually, I had 2 letting agents, one in Hull and one in Grimsby. I bought them both at the same time. And the idea then was to franchise this. So I had to. So fortunately, I'd gone down that path. And then all that happened is we knew I was leaving in a year's time, told my business partner, the staff, and said, okay, well, now it's real because I'm moving back to SA. This business is going to work or it's not going to work. But look, 7 years later from leaving, it's gone from strength to strength. And, there's a whole book just on lessons learned through that.
Amazing. So right now, you've got a business in the UK, where you do sourcings and
letting.
The letting part, and you also take on people who are wanting to invest in the UK. That's another business. And in a stronger market, and you are here. So each time we are all complaining that the rand has fallen and we are suffering, you potentially are smiling because you're earning more on your pound market. Now,
big time.
I want to speak to that, Andrew, because the time that I've spent a lot of time around you is that what I've seen of you is that in this is going to kind of like us talking about what is it exactly do you do in property. But what I've seen around you is that you're very big around investing in the UK. And it's a question that I've always wanted to ask you to say, I see you do a lot of kind of like flips that allows you to have liquid cash all the time in South Africa. And does it mean that when you become liquid and then you throw the money over the fence into your other business in the UK, because then you're obviously earning in a stronger currency? So it allows you to live a more luxurious life if you had lived here in South Africa. But before you answer that question, maybe let's tie it out to the fact to say, what is it that you do in property? That you wear a number of hats, but what is it that you do? And we want to relate it to this example here that I've just given.
Yeah, sure. So, for me personally, I think the reason why I flipped so many properties is, I moved back here in 2013. I started from scratch. So I went back into rental accommodation for about a year and a half. I had to build up my credit profile back in South Africa. I then bought my family home. So I literally I came back, and my idea was keep my pounds over there and earn rands. But of course, I think it was like the first year and a half, I was living off pounds. But my idea was always to keep the two currencies separate. My pounds can sit there, my rands can sit here. And don't get me wrong, when I've needed pounds, yes, I'll send them over. But where I can, I want to separate it. So I had to find a way of earning money in rands because I'm back in South Africa. What am I going to do? I thought, well, Because originally my plan was just to focus on the UK. I wasn't going to touch South Africa at all. I was going to keep focusing on the UK. But having the property bug, being in Edenvale, seeing the opportunities, I had to get stuck in. And so I started flipping properties because the opportunities were there. They were around in Primrose and Edenvale, Eden Glen. So this is great. I've got some rental properties as well. And I thought, but then, the issue I had with rental properties for me personally was that I could go buy a rental property here and pay the banks 10, 11%. Or I could use those funds to go to England and be paying 2 or 3% and getting a much higher cash flow and earning pounds. So the first few years of my journey in South Africa was flip in South Africa and keep building my UK property portfolio.
Right.
That was my strategy. For that reason, why would I want to buy a buy in South Africa when I can buy it in the UK and make more money with the same amount of money, if that makes sense?
And you're still making more money with the exchange, as and when
exactly.
It changes. Yeah.
And however, though, I did get some buy-to-lets, and even like now, for example, I'm turning a family house into 11 flats. I am now starting to do more rentals in South Africa for no other reason than why not? Why not build in two countries? Why not have the UK portfolio? I'll always keep that going. It's where I started. I know that market like the back of my hand. And as a letting agent, I'm always getting opportunities from my own existing landlord base. So I will always continue to invest in the UK. And I guess I've just taken the approach, and there's no real reason, TJ, other than why not? There's so many opportunities under my nose, especially now coming out of COVID. I saw what's happened in England after the financial crash. I saw the real big guns come out after the financial crash. And they say that more millionaires are made in a recession when the market is down, and that's what we're going through. And I thought to myself, why not pick up a few more properties? Maybe if I just pick up maybe about 10 properties in the next 18 months, I'll be happy with that.
100%.
Yeah.
I have. It's funny enough that even though you be my coach, you are very strong with flipping. I haven't been very found with flipping. Tried one or two, and it didn't really work out for me. Yes, made money, but from a long-term perspective on how I foresee my journey, that strategy didn't really make sense for me. The buy-to-let resonated immediately, and that's where, for me as a business, I've taken it through. But which also comes back to a point where, as a coach and as a coachee, one can still be being coached with someone else who is doing something in a different manner, but still be able to take the next person into a journey where they want to take, because the relationship of the coach and the coachee, it's about me. What is it that I'm looking for, right? And then the coach who's guiding you to where you're going.
No, of course. I mean, I still remember one of my coaches in England, and his name was John Brandt. Right. I had way more experience than John in property, way more experience. I think he owned like 2 or 3 properties. I was at like 22 properties. I'd sourced about 80 or even 100 at that stage. I'm going back years and years ago.
Sure.
Yet, so even though I had more property experience than he did, he was still a fantastic coach.
Right.
Not always about how much experience you've got. It's how that coach moves you. It's how that coach holds you accountable. It's how that coach helps, how they help you take you to the next level. A mentor is a different story. A mentor should always have way more experience than you. Whereas a coach is someone to keep pushing you. And in conversation, if there's something very technical that I didn't know, the chancellor, he wouldn't know. But part of the coaching was go find out and go speak to this person or that person, come back with the answer. So I agree with you. I mean, same as you and I, like I'm a big believer of passive income and then holding properties long-term. And I think, maybe just explain why flipping as well is that I flip properties that don't make financial sense from a buy-to-let perspective.
Right.
If I could make 200 grand on a property now, or I could rent it out and it's just going to break even, like what's the point of doing the deal? I'd rather take the 200 grand and chuck it into a multi-let, for example, right? And that's one thing I learned from sourcing. Big lesson learned was never judge a book by its cover. And that deal may not make financial sense to Andrew or TJ, but it will make financial sense to someone. So I realized there's always a buyer for a deal, be it a first-time buyer, be it an amateur investor, be it crowdfunding platforms, there's always a buyer for a deal. So I learned to take that deal and go, who's the market for this deal? Is it an Andrew or TJ? Or is it a crowdfunding platform? Or maybe I must just list it on private property and sell it to a first-time buyer. It doesn't make financial sense to me as an investor, but let me flip it and sell it to someone where it does make financial sense. If that makes sense?
100%. So there you are, Andrew. The one hat that you wear is being a coach. You've been my coach. And you're still doing it for many other people. Why coaching?
I guess it's the same as like I was saying to Simone the other day. You know, when you reflect on your life, I was in high school and got to matric, and I left matric, and a friend of mine's daughter was struggling with maths, and I used to love maths. So for a year, I coached her on maths. I'd go to her house once or twice a week, and I was a teacher, I was a coach. I was then doing Kung Fu for about 8 years, and I became an instructor, right? And that's happened through my whole life. Sound engineering. I became a coach in sound engineering. I was coaching young students how to set up studios. Then I get into property. In the first 8 years, though, of my journey, though, I wasn't really coaching at all. I was focusing on building the business. I was focusing on building my property portfolio, and I had various coaches in the UK. I guess when it came back to South Africa, and I was headhunted by Legacy, and they asked me if I could coach one of the students. I was like, okay, yeah, I can look at that. And Leroy Slover happened to be that person. And I started, and I was crazy, yeah, it's crazy how I met Leroy. And so I sat down with Leroy. I thought, okay, how did my coaches coach me? Okay, and that's how I'm going to coach Leroy.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it. I got a kick out of it. And then Legacy called me again and said, there's another student called John Stewart who lives in Cape Town. Can you coach him as well? I said, well, yeah, sure, I'll coach him, because all I'm doing is teaching them what I know and pushing them forwards. And that went on to the next level, to the next level. And as I was investing in England and South Africa on the side, almost like a part-time thing, I was coaching them. And then, as you know, I got more involved with Legacy. Then next thing you know, I'm their head coach.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that person is what I love is like going out into the field with students, like I did this week. And the reason I love coaching as well is everyone's different. They've got different personalities, different risk appetites, different strategies. And I'm a people's person. I hate being by myself in my office. I want people around me the whole time. So coaching for me it's fun, it's exciting. And when I see results, I get this kick going, wow, Andrew, well done. You've just changed. You just helped someone. And when I see excitement in their eyes, that again falls in line with my vision. Because there are people out there, TJ, as you all know this, that are givers. They do genuinely want to help other people. Everyone says, I want to help people. In most cases, it's rubbish, right? But there's genuine people that do want to help. And I am one of those people. And I'm sure you can see that. Yeah,
good stuff. Andrew, that's not the only hat that you wear in property. I mean, there's other hats as well that you wear. You started off a networking, what can you call it? It's not really an event, but it's actually a community now that is growing solid across the country. And this is at the back of, it's a foreign concept from a property space, but it's a concept that is known in everyday life, because I'm of the view that when you go down to the pub at the beer hall, it's still a community. Your focus is just the beer, right? Or socializing. Going to church is still a community. Your focus there is your religion path, right?
Yeah.
So this is not something that is unknown to us. It's in our blood to commute and do things like that, to be in a community. And there you are, you see the gap, and you bring in the brand that we see that is at the back of your South Africa Property Investor Network. Why?
Yeah, so quite simply, I moved back to Johannesburg in 2013. I still remember going into Google and I searched property networking events. Yeah. And I couldn't find any, but I found this one in the morning, and when I went to it, and the guy didn't even rock up. It was like some breakfast thing. The guy didn't even rock up. It was ridiculous.
But was the breakfast paid for?
Well, there wasn't. The place was closed. So obviously, put this advert out there on meetup.com. I was all excited. Okay, cool. I can start meeting South Africans and bang, nothing happened. So I Googled more. I went to like one or two things, but they weren't networking events. They were like something else. And because my success in the UK was built on the back of networking. So when I got that mentor and I bought into their community, a lot of success, my clients raising money came out of that community. So I thought maybe I could create something similar in South Africa. So at that stage, I became an estate agent with Keller Williams here in Edenvale. And I said to Dion Tromp, who was the principal, who still is the principal, I said, look, would you mind if I put an advert on meetup.com and I invite some local property investors to your offices? You put the food on, I'll host it. You can get one of your agents to talk, and let's just have a small networking event. Very informal, it's free. It's exactly what we did. I don't know how many people, maybe 7 or 12 or something like that. And I got that hop of 6 and they loved it. They were excited. And I was like, cool, I'll do it again. So I did it again and I did it again. I thought, okay, this thing's getting bigger. And the reason I started doing it initially was to create a platform for me to do deals and raise money. Same as the UK. So I brought the same element over here. But what happened, TJ, is I saw there was a big hunger for it. That's when I met Warren Brissa. I met Warren Brissa through networking. He came to the very first networking event. And that's where Freedom Through Property was born.
Right.
And we then said, okay, well, let's commercialize it. Let's take this thing to Woodmead, let's take it to Sandton. Let's try Pretoria. Warren moved to Cape Town. Let's start running events in Cape Town. But still, I would still say the first year or 2 years of Sappin, first few years, it was still more of a sideline thing for me. It wasn't my core focus. It's only become the core focus in the last few years, funny enough. But the first few years, it was still more about let's raise money, let's do deals, let's bring South Africans together. But this thing, I would probably say, TJ, 2017 into 18, 2017 into 2018 is when it really started getting legs, where we started expanding, where we started going into other cities. And in the last quarter and the first quarter, well, not so much the first quarter of this year, but the last quarter of last year, or the last half of last year, 2019, is when this business just accelerated.
Yeah.
And
So now you're almost like at a national scale. You're almost in the major metros. You've got a local representation. There's networks that are happening now, but obviously with COVID, you've gone a lot online. I like enjoying these sessions. They're quite cool. Whenever I can, I'm always there. I used to enjoy the physical ones a lot, because you get to meet a lot of people, different things. And that's the one thing I like about it. But you also have a school, Andrew, over and above that.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the Property Academy, like you can see just over there. And that is what I envisioned or imagined going back to 2006 or 7. One of those years when my coach made me write down my goals, and my vision was to build an entrepreneur school.
Right.
And now I have what's called the Property Academy, which is for property entrepreneurs. Because what I realized, and you know this as well, TJ, and I'm sure people watching this, is if you want to excel at anything in life, be it sport, you want to become a doctor, you want to become a pilot, whatever it's going to be, you're going to have to go through some level of education.
100%.
Okay?
Yeah.
And once you have that level of education, you've then got to turn it into practical. That's where Sappin comes in. So my whole vision and idea with my ecosystem is, comes to the Property Academy, we're going to give you the physical education. A coach or a mentor is then going to help you apply that education into the network. So go to the networking event, start meeting like-minded property investors, raise some capital, find some deals. And that's where the whole Bruno Simao brokerage comes in. That's where Sappin Drive comes in. That's where Invest of the Year. So it's the Sappin Academy of 2 core businesses, and there's a few other sideline businesses that complement that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Andrew, there's lots of things that are happening here, and you're wearing multiple hats. And there is Simone with the kids. And how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's been tough, I won't lie. So there's quite a big team behind us. We've got a few virtual PAs. Nice. We've got a good group of full-time employees, someone who just does our accounts. We have people dedicated to sales. We have people dedicated to operations. We have people dedicated to marketing. So we have quite a big team behind us with clear, because one thing I learned in the UK about franchising my business was the importance of roles and responsibilities and getting the right staff members and motivating them. So, because I assume, TJ, that people just think it's Andrew's business and he does everything. When I look at my diary like this week, my vision is to work less and earn more. Right. Is to have an empty diary, but the activities that I personally work on are very specific. If they're not specific, if they're not high-level ticket items, I delete them or I pass them over to someone else. You see, back in the day, TJ, I would do everything. Hey, geez, man, everything. And it's called burnout, right? 7 days a week burnout. But the trick here is, and right now, as we're speaking, I've still got 2 coaches here in South Africa. I'm speaking to my coach at quarter as an example. And all these coaches, for example, my homework for the coach is he wants to see a list of activities that I'm still doing day to day to make sure that he's going to hold me accountable and say, but why are you doing this, Andrew? Why haven't you delegated this? Yeah. So to find that balance, TJ, and this is where most entrepreneurs go wrong, is they underestimate how hard it is to kickstart a business, how long it takes to run that business, the costs involved. You need a budget for sales and marketing. You need a budget for certain things, and they underestimate it. So they try to do everything themselves. So they're so busy focused on marketing that they're not doing sales, and they're not doing quotations, and not doing this. And that's why they say, TJ, 80% of businesses fail, because they underestimate how hard it is to build a business. I mean, that letting agency I've had for 15 years. Sappen's been on for 7 years. The success of Sappen now isn't 12 months. It's 7 years of me putting money into my business, of me working 7 days a week, right? And that's the difference. So back then, TJ, I didn't have much balance. Building the business, I didn't have much balance. But you get to a point in business where it's, okay, great. We've now got 2 or 3 people dedicated to marketing. We've got 2 people dedicated to operations. We've got 2 virtual PAs that take care of Andrew. All Andrew's going to do is he's going to speak. He's going to meet the right people. And it's making sure you're focusing on the right tasks.
The beauty on that, Andrew, is I've also seen that also. But I am glad that I've had people like you in my space who are coaches and mentors, because when that problem started creeping up very early for me, people like you was able to say, TJ, you're going in the wrong path. That's not what you need to focus on. Focus on this. But in the same breath, I've then had people that are skilled in that space. So I might try to be an accountant because I am trying to balance the books, and I'm not an accountant. I'm going to spend 5 hours on something that the bookkeeper will spend 30 minutes on.
Yeah.
Right? The same thing with marketing, the same thing. So that your return of investment on that action is far much greater by just outsourcing it to someone else who is 100% skilled on it. Andrew, I want to speak about some of the benefits now that you have started realizing in your journey. We spoke about the tree, you planted some seeds.
Yes.
The fruits, some of them are coming up right now, right? And from a family perspective, you, Simone, Logan, and Sky, also your in-laws, your parents.
Yeah,
I've seen that you guys are well knitted and you stay close together. What are some of the benefits that you are seeing now from a family perspective, from a business perspective, and from a growing perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, what we love doing as a family is going away on holidays.
Right.
So like next weekend, yeah, I'm just waiting to see what's happening with bloody lockdown, right? I said to my wife today, just book the holiday, let's go. And then the benefits of that is, we'll go on Thursday, or actually I can't go Thursday because we've got our premier events on Thursday night, but we'll go Friday. Yeah. And we'll just, and there's no, I don't need, the only person I've got to ask is myself. Right. Am I allowed to go away? That's the big benefit, right? When you own your time.
Yeah.
So for me, and as soon as COVID's out the way, we love going to the bush as often as we can. And we come back on a Monday or we leave on a Friday. We can do what we want with our time. Spending afternoons with my kids. So I'll fetch them from school on a Monday. And my routine was, TJ, Monday afternoons were like blanked off for the kids. So I'd go watch them play rugby and cricket. On the way back, we'd stop at Malageta. We'd have a chow. I'd have some wine in the afternoon, and it'd be like a holiday for me on a Monday afternoon. And it's having that flexibility of, hey, there's a match on a Wednesday or Thursday. So please book that time off for me. I'm going to go watch the kids. So it's that type of benefit. And the same as my folks, we were there Wednesday night. They live around the corner, seeing them every week and weekends, having bras. And that's the benefit, basically, which is awesome.
Yeah. And you're not pressed in terms of where is the income going to come from. Yes, we all worry about it from time to time because of where the economy might be at that particular time. But you've got some assets. You've got UK assets that are waiting for your passive income is coming. You've got local assets that are creating the passive income, so money is coming. You've got a business where you're educating. There's a little bit of activity there, but some of your products are also on a passive income right now. So you've got multiple passive income. So the worry about where is the money coming from, for me, able to do this, it's not as heightened as someone else who has no money at all or just dependent on an employer.
Yeah. Big difference there, hey, because I used to be worried going back in the day, but I'm not worried now because I have built income streams. So I have the property portfolio that sits in England. I then have the letting agency that sits in England, both paid out pounds. Here in South Africa, I do have rental properties with positive cash flow. I've got SAP and I've got the academy. I've got the coaching side of things. So I'm now seeing, not just now, a few years ago already, seeing the impact and the difference and the importance of having multiple income streams. Because, hey, I remember the UK building the letting business was very tough. It didn't used to pay me a salary. So I used to live off the income, off of the properties and the sourcing. But the letting agency got to a point where it started doing really well. It was booming. And my portfolio wasn't performing for 1 to 2 years. Had to do a few renovations. The tenants were paying. So then I dipped into the letting agency. So just having those two income streams, I started seeing the benefit of 2 income streams. And then coming to South Africa and building a third, a fourth, and a fifth. When you have those different income streams, and do you know what? When you don't have that financial pressure on your back, the decisions you make are different. Because when you have, from a mindset point of view, you make decisions based on your mindset because you're financial. But if you take all the money worries away, the decisions you make will be different.
100%. Andrew, as we come to a close, I just want to ask you a couple of more questions. The first question that I'm going to ask of you is, for an individual who's starting off, there could be in a position of, I'm always talking about, you in 50,000 Rand right now, and you've got a good credit, but you just don't know what you don't know about property. What will be your 3 tips that you can say, hey, start off from here?
So are you saying someone that earns 50,000 Rand a month or someone that has 50,000 Rand?
Someone who's earning 50,000 Rand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for someone's earning
whatever the circumstance is, but how do they start?
Yeah, geez. So someone's earning 50,000 Rand a month. They're probably got quite a good job. The very first thing I would say is seriously think about if property is for you, number one, because property is not for everyone. Okay. Yes, so do you really want to get into property? Because it's not easy. So start thinking about, if you get into property, what do you want to get out of property? What's the outcome? Start with the end in mind. Yes. Do you want to do this because of your retirement plan? Do you want to do this because you want to generate a positive cash flowing portfolio that you can live off? What is it that you want to get? So that's the same with anyone, whether you earn money or you don't earn money, right? Once you've got that, my second piece of advice is, because you will then know how many properties you want to go out and buy. The affordability that you have with the bank. So go to someone like a Christian Janssen at 360 Fin. And work out what is your originator. Yeah, that's the one. And find out what is your affordability, because it might be that you earn a great income, you got very little expenses, but the affordability you have is not enough to meet your goals, which is maybe 10 properties or whatever it is. So you then got to start working out your own blueprint. How are we going to get there? So there's a lot of planning that happens. And once you have the plan and you know how you're going to get to those 10 properties, because your 50K isn't enough, once you have that plan and you've worked out, because then TJ, maybe that person has to go do installment sale agreements. Maybe they've got to use private finance. You know, we've got to solve that problem. Only then do I say, do you know what? Now we have the plan. Let's go out and execute. But do not do it by yourself. It is just not worth it. Do you know how many people come to me and say, oh, I wish I'd met you 10 years ago, 15 years ago? 95% of people that I've helped, that have started the journey by themselves, 95% have made the mistakes. So for anyone that hasn't started investing, they're actually in a good position right now because they've got the opportunity to get the education, get the coach to make sure that they make the right buying decisions.
100%. Andrew, where does one, on a chilled out day, where does one find you?
Okay, so the chilled out day, it depends if it's in COVID or out of COVID, but most times, and you'll know this, TJ, you'll find me in my front garden with a whiskey in the one hand and tongs in the other hand, a dop and a chop. And if it's out of COVID, the rugby will be on. And you know, my idea of fun is just at home with the family, invite my friends, let the kids play in the garden, and just chill there, make a lekker bonfire, and just have a dop and a chop, eh?
Nice. Are there any favorite books, Andrew, that you have read, helped you along the way? One or two, maybe. That you say, this can help.
So, the book that changed my life literally was The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I still remember I was in Egypt. I was lying on the beach, and I couldn't get my eyes off of this book. The 4-Hour Week. We started talking about automation and systems. That's what led into the whole franchising idea. Right. So if people haven't read that book, they have to read that book.
Nice. If we had to look back, Andrew, 25 years ago, or should we say, if we had to give your 25 younger some advice, what advice would that be?
Definitely start looking at what you want to achieve in life, and go get a coach in it. That's it. Go out there and get a coach. I'll tell you why. If I could do that and I could go back, that first property I bought for 160,000, I would have bought 10 of them because I would have been able to buy 10 because of the affordability with the banks at the age of like 23 or 24. But there's no one to tell me about property. There's no one to guide me. There's no one to say, hey, why don't you buy more of these? There was no one to push me. I did not know that coaching even existed back in those days.
Right. What does success look like for you, Andrew?
For me personally, success for me is spending more time with the family. Success for me is not having to worry about money. Success for me is doing what I want to do when I want to do it. Right. And success for me is living my dream and my vision, which I am doing. And it's quite a thing because I'm literally grateful for every single thing I have in my life. I do not need anything else. I don't need more houses. I don't need a second wife. I don't need more dogs. I don't need another car. Like, I don't need anything. With everything I have in my life, I am just grateful for everything I have, and I don't need anything else, but I deserve every penny that I make, if that makes sense.
100%. Well done, Andrew. Andrew, you've been an inspiration to me. You've put me under your wings. You have seen me grown from nothing, toddler, and where I am now. And if it hasn't been for your push and all of those things, none of this conversation wouldn't be
happening.
So number one, I'd like to say thank you. That's the first thing. And then
well done to you, eh?
Thank you, Andrew. And then the second thing is thank you. I think your job, Andrew, is one of the job where you probably have less thank yous along the way. So you help other people, and then boom, they fly off, and then they're gone, and you have never seen them again. So it's a thankless job. But without people like you who are able to identify other people who are down in the out at that particular time, who don't know what they don't know, but you show them the light, and you let them go to blossom.
Yes.
Yeah, and
no, exactly.
Thankless job. So well done, and thank you for those that haven't said thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it, eh? And well done for you, man. I still remember sitting with you at the City Lodge talking about a small little 1-bed flat but how are we going to finance it and stuff. And now you done like 1,000 deals. So well done to you guys, eh?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you had it. This has been M5 Successful Friend, and we brought you another successful friend who is Andrew, aka, who's been my coach. If you're one of those people that are saying, hey, property is for me, you had him on what exactly that you need to be doing, what you need to be doing. He's been doing it for a while. So he's got immense knowledge around this. And you're most welcome to visit Sapin Investors Network. They have these events that happen from time to time, hosting other people that are doing very well, knowledgeable stuff that is out there, and obviously the school that is also available. Well, from me, it has been one of those other days where we say it's over and out. We'll see you on the next podcast. Cheers. God bless. Goodbye.
Hey guys.